So that is starting now as well. Let me go ahead and get everyone checked in. Looks like I have a Mark Fisher. Mark, you with us? If so, if you could unmute and tell me who you're representing here today.
Yeah, hi, I'm representing the zoo.
All right, welcome. And I have Jeff Cohn.
Good morning. So David, my last name is awfully spelled. It's pronounced Kern, like no one should ever, be able to figure that out. And I represent the zoo. I'm a civil engineer and I do the majority of the zoning work that we do at the zoo.
Gotcha.
So we have not been through one of these with you recently, but we've done a good half dozen of these in the last 5 years.
Right. Okay. Well, welcome, Mr. Kern.
Thank you.
I think that we also, Trey Sheldon from our zoning department is also with us. Are you guys expecting anyone else to join us, either Mr. Fisher or Mr. Kern, on the zoo side of this?
Nope.
No.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started. As you know, I need to read through our hearing script. That'll basically cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get started. So this is the January 25th, 2023 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. The case before us today is case number ZH20220183. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or the opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I'll give Trey an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to the application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony, and then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside of scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly, but to the extent there's some issue that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing to do is just swear everybody in. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, the zoning code requires that that I swear you in prior to that testimony. So if that's you, if you could raise your right hand, I need everyone to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Great. All right, thanks everyone. So will Mr. Fisher and Mr. Kern be taking the lead here for us today?
I'll take the lead for now and then let Mark correct me as necessary. So, Mr. Sturkey, first of all, thank you for taking the time to hear our presentation. The majority of what we want to talk about is in that, section 6 report. But what I wanted to do is take a brief step back, just because we have not worked with you before, and let you know that whenever we have these projects, we keep the zoning staff closely involved. So usually once or twice a year, we meet with Trey and Emily A. House and other predecessors. Same thing with the buildings department, same thing with parks, because we're regulated. We're on city property for the most part that's controlled by the Parks Board, and keep everyone up to speed as to what's going on. So, it was Trey who pointed out a long time ago that, hey, you've got a sliver of the hillside coming through your project. And in fact, we have 2 other projects coming up, Trey, the North America one and one of the Gibbon areas, that we need to come see you in the next couple of weeks just to double check some things. And we'll have a couple more of these coming your way. On the second page of our section 6 written statement, in the first paragraph, we kind of point out that this is in the hillside overlay, but the site doesn't look like anything like a hillside. And when we've talked in the past about changing the map, because this happens a lot at the zoo, we've been told that it'd be much more difficult to modify the hillside overlay map than it would be to come for these variances, and that's the approach we've taken. So basically, we have a flat parking lot, and as part of a larger project called Elephant Trek. And if Mr. Sturkey, if you're familiar with the zoo, the back parking lot was where school buses would park when you would come in through the zoo, that north end of the site. And we're building a large Asian elephant habitat. It's going to consist of multiple buildings, and there are certain safety requirements with elephants. And so we're regulated by the USDA, and there's a series of things in the manuals with the USDA that drive how you work with elephants. So like, for instance, in our elephant barn, there's nothing from the ceiling that's less than 23 feet tall. And then there's a combination of horizontal and vertical to protect the public. So for instance, if your elephant is within 15 feet horizontally of the public, you need a certain vertical separation. And then there's even a concern of elephants climbing walls and things like that. So if the wall is too short, the elephant can climb. And so the case we have here is we have this building, which is for siamangs and otters, that is adjacent to the elephant habitat. So at the elevation in which you'd be looking at the siamangs and otters, you will be able to walk over to an elephant viewing area, which requires a certain vertical separation between the yard and the building. And so, or the viewing area is a better way to say it. So we wind up with, because of some foundation issues and basements and other things, a 20-foot cut and fill activity where 8 is, allowed without a variance in the hillside. We're really safe about what we do. We have had the same geotechnical engineer at the zoo for about 35 years. We do dozens and dozens of borings. We are very sensitive to landslides and global stability and all those things, and we deal with them all the time at the zoo. We deal with them very responsibly. So what we're here to ask you for is to, obviously just to grant this variance based on the text of our Section 6 written statement. And, I believe, and I'm not going to speak for Trey, but, the report written by city staff is, I would say generally in support of approving the request. Mark, did I miss anything?
No, that's a good summary. I will just add, just to be clear, where this building is going is an existing flat parking lot. So these hillside overlays that come into the zoo are based on old maps. And there was an old ravine there, 60 years ago, 80 years ago?
No, 100 years ago in the 1920s.
Before we were born. So there's no hillside there. It's physically an asphalt parking lot. But on the map that shows up, it's a sliver. So that's why we kind of have sometimes these discussions. But if you walked out there and looked at it, you're like, why is there a hillside overlay here? But it is what it is. So that's part of why we're here, to just explain the situation and say, hey, based on what's actually there now, it feels like this should not really apply.
So will it be one singular cut that's 20 feet?
Yeah, so it's basically the footprint of the building. And so what happens is that we have a lower level in the building for our filtration. So all those like pools and water features you see at the zoo require filtration. We don't have a lot of space at the zoo, so we try to put those things in basements or things that are out of the way. So we, because if you look in the drawings we provided, Mr. Sturkey, to the left, there is a hillside, which we are avoiding. And so in order to build less building, we're putting a basement under here for the treatment. So it's really one activity right there.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I look through the stand. Well, let me give Trey an opportunity to weigh in, but Trey, as I look through the standards, it doesn't seem like they really apply to a site that's flat or relatively flat.
Well, I mean, what we would say is that we're in the overlay, and we're asking for relief effectively because it is, but we are in the overlay. We're clearly regulated by the spirit of the rules.
Sure,
so.
But you're saying that the impact of this project won't affect a hillside or any hillside. You said there was one maybe nearby or adjacent. Will it have any impact on any hillside?
Yeah, when you look at when you look at the last page of our Section 6, and we talk about like the intent of the hillside development standards. You know, we don't really cut into a hillside. We don't alter a hillside. 50% of the building is below grade. You know, we minimize excavation. Our development footprint is as small as possible by putting the treatment under the building in the basement. We're 30 feet from the top of the hill at the minimum average of 65 feet. We don't interrupt view sheds, you know, all those things. But, you know, we also want to say, you know, we're not just asking you to give us relief because we're asking. Like we've done lots of things to make certain that this is safe and appropriate and will work well and will not negatively impact our neighbors or Avondale or any of that. So we're very conscientious about being a good neighbor.
Okay. Trey? Anything?
As a general comment about the hillside overlays, it does extrapolate. I think when it's done, it extrapolates between points of topography, and a lot of the zoo, if hadn't been changed over the past more than a century, some of it, a lot of it, more of it would probably be in hillside than is reflected on the maps, but has been infill. In this particular instance, I can't speak to exactly why the you know, when the sliver of a part of it is within there. I will say that to what Jeff pointed out, that I mean, much of that, the back area there, it used to be called Whiting Grove years ago, but it was all and we have an operas held there and so on, and it back where it was called the Safari Lot. But previously it was actively used. There was even like an opera house thing there, something back 50 years ago. And obviously the WPA, I believe, came in and filled in a lot of that, what it would have been a ravine, and changed it around. So if you go further to the kind of the northwest of where the area is, it does start to fall off pretty rapidly as you go down Forest Avenue, take Drury all the way to Forest, and it starts dropping way down to where you go down toward where line goes down toward Mitchell Avenue and so on. So it really does fall off quickly there. And I think this just happened to be on the very perimeter of the area that was infilled, if that makes sense, back by the WPA. So it probably, by the time the topographic points align from just to the northwest of there, it probably caught part of it. But I mean, I only have to go with what shows up both in our permitting system and in cages and on the overlay map as to what's in the hillside overlay. In this particular instance, David, part of the reason they need the relief that they do is not just the cut for the holding area for the otters and so on, but and the gibbons, but also the fact that as Jeff was speaking to, they also require fill on both sides of this building. And so it really doubles the amount of what, you know, this is not one massive cut. This is half cut, half fill, because they need to bring the grades up. There's another factor besides just USDA here, which is that when you have a building like this, you need to meet building code with regard to ADA accessibility and so on too. And so you can't just have some pitch or, you know, steep steps going up. If they're going to have people with disabilities be able to access this building, they have to make flat ground. And there's no way around that, or else it would be prohibitive for access for folks like that, or it would require, you know, some kind of elevator system or something of that nature. So basically, if you look at Figure 6 in my drawing, anyhow, if you look at Figure 6, there it's an elevation drawing, kind of a profile or a section drawing, really, of it. That pretty much speaks to it exactly. I mean, you're trying to get grades up to where on the one side where you can enter the building, and on the other part where you can have a viewing area for the elephants in relation to where the otter water filtration system is and so on. So they're really just trying to make form follow function here, and within the limits of both the USDA and the ADA. I don't know if there's any other way that, you know, to have done this except not to build the building. I mean, this has been part of a long vision plan for the zoo for a long time. That's coming to fruition here. They had to get funding and so on to do this Asian, and especially the elephant track part of it. So, and this too will enable, I believe, other parts of the zoo if they move the Siamangs and so on from there, enable other habitat there near the lake where the Siamangs are currently, I think. Anyhow. guess that's about sums it up. It's the minimum it's the minimum they could do to meet the ADA on the one hand with the entry and the USDA vertical elements that Jeff was speaking to have people a safe viewing distance from those elements.
Okay, thanks, Trey. All right, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Kern, anything else in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today? I don't think I have any more questions.
No, we just, appreciate your time, and Trey, especially Trey and Emily's time. We'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks about a changeable copy wayfinding thing at the zoo. Yep. So, and we got 2 more coming after that. But again, always appreciate the time and the effort. We definitely try to follow all the rules and dot our I's and cross our T's and have no problem being here and asking for this relief. But to Trey's point, and I should have mentioned it, that the ADA issue at the zoo is a relatively large one. Most of our designs of our new habitats and pedestrian viewing areas are a challenge. Like if you can remember where the what we call the bear line is at the zoo. If you've ever been to the zoo, like where the polar bear was and the brown bear and all that, that road is at about a 14% slope. It's, it was built 100 years ago. It's completely ADA uncompliant. And we're redoing that area and we're making as much of it compliant as we can. It's a struggle. It's a real, it's not Columbus, Ohio is what I like to say. It's not flat. So.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I think we'll leave it there. I've had a chance to review the application materials and the staff report. Based on that and based on the testimony I've heard here today, I will approve the project.
Thank you.
I need to formalize that approval in a written decision, as you know, and so that typically takes a week or two. I'll email it to you in a PDF as soon as it's finished. I think you guys know the deal from there. Been here enough, but you can work with Trey on the permitting after that. Hopefully I'll have it to you before I see you again. How about that? And yeah, if you guys have any questions about that or want an update on the decision, just feel free to reach out to me. Any questions right now?
No, appreciate the support.
Yep. Thanks guys. Appreciate your testimony. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
See you in a couple weeks. We're adjourned.
Take care.